Welcome to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, where we talk about homesteading stuff and life stuff and everything in between. Join me, Amy Dingman, as we explore big questions on a little farm. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Farmish Kind of Life podcast. This is episode 301. Today is Tuesday, December 17th. I believe. Thank you so much for coming back here to listen to another episode. This is where we talk about life and how to live a good one. That's what the Farmish Kind of Life podcast is about. It's not so much about homesteading all the time. What are we going to be talking about today? Today we're going to be talking about, I haven't figured out exactly what to call this episode yet, but it's kind of going to be about the life cycle of information platforms. And that sounds like something really scientific or really heady or really like whatever. But I don't know what else to call this. The reason that I'm talking about this particular topic, this all started because last week was my 300th episode. And I was thinking about the fact that I've done 300 episodes and how the podcast has kind of morphed and changed over the life of it since 2018, I think. And then I was thinking about the podcasts that I listen to, the podcasts that I started listening to, the podcasts I still listen to, the podcasts that I used to listen to that aren't around anymore. And it got me thinking about a lot of different things regarding information platforms. I guess that's what I'm going to call them, right? And how they change. And so today we're going to explore the fact that it seems like these platforms like ebooks and podcasting and blogging and YouTube and all of that, they kind of follow this predictable life cycle. And the creators and the audiences kind of perpetuate this cycle. So we're going to talk about that today. And we're going to talk about how this maybe doesn't even just have to do with blogging or podcasting or ebooks or YouTube or TikTok or Facebook or anything like that. Maybe it's kind of just relates to all of life. But before we get to that whole big chaotic mess of a topic, what's been happening on the lifestead? Well, I'm excited because I got working in the forge again. For those of you who don't know, a forge is this little furnace that you stick metal in. You heat it up real hot, and then you turn that metal into something, whether that's a tool or a knife or something artistic or whatever. The forge is the furnace you put it in, but the forge is also what you call the space you're working in. So it's kind of confusing, but I got to work in the forge again. So really, really excited. I was working on some Christmas presents, working on a whole bunch of different stuff, learning a lot. And while I was in there were some realizations that I'm going to put in one of the next podcast episodes. It's actually going to kind of be the topic of one of the next podcast episodes. And that is about the different ways in which people see the world and how they learn and the ways their brains work. Because my husband and my brain, our brains, they work completely differently. We see things completely differently. And it's really interesting when you're trying to build something or working on a project or doing whatever, just the totally different ways that your brain will see something and how you need something explained to you. So there's been a lot of that discovery and learning going on. So I think that will apply to people in many different ways. So we will talk about that in an upcoming episode. What else? My oldest hit a deer on the way home from work last week, I believe it was. It was 25 below. You guys, it was so cold. It was like the coldest night. The wind was just incredible. It was so, so cold. And he called. We were actually in the forge working. And he calls and he says, yeah, I hit a deer. So we went and helped him load that into his truck, brought it home, and then processed it the next day. But y'all, 25 below, having to be out in the field, gutting a deer, I think that's like a badge of manhood. I told my son, you have earned a new badge of manhood because, man, that is not fun. Gutting a deer at 25 below is no joke. So there you go. That was exciting. Now we have more venison in the freezer, and I got another venison heart, so that's exciting. My son is fine. The truck sustained minimal damage, and so I guess it all kind of worked out for everyone except the deer. What else has been happening? We had a sort of unexpected thing happen in one of the barns. I went out to do chores in the morning, and I went into the rabbit area and was very surprised to discover that my doe, one of my does that I did not know was pregnant, had in fact been pregnant, and she had kindled, which means gave birth, to kits, baby rabbits, and they were all dead. This was a huge surprise because I did not realize she was pregnant. Here's the things about rabbits. Y'all, I'm learning so much. I'm very new to this. I'm making a lot of mistakes, and I'm very willing to share those all with you. The last time I had put the rabbits together, the boy and the girl, it didn't really appear as though anything had happened. It did not look like the positioning was ever correct. There was never a fall off, which is how you know the boy has done the deed. So there was never any of that. And I am still very new, so I'm watching what's happening so I can know that it happened, right? So I can be like, okay, it happened now, write it on the calendar, whatever. What I'm learning is it can happen and you don't know that it happened. And last time I put them together, I was just frustrated because I was like, rabbits are supposed to be easy and you're just supposed to put them together and it's supposed to happen. And there you go. And 30 days later, you have babies and yay. And I was frustrated because I was like, it's just not working. Well, what I didn't know is it had worked. Now, silly me, I did not write the date that I had put them together on the calendar because I was just frustrated. I thought it's not working. So I never wrote it down. And then I went out into the barn and I was like, okay, well, that really sucks. There was fur everywhere. She had pulled fur out like she's supposed to. And there was a bunch of dead baby kits within the fur. It was clearly too cold for them to survive in the temperatures that they were born in, not having a nest box. And what I should have done was, even though I maybe didn't think she was pregnant, I still should have put a nesting box in on day 27 or whatever. Rabbits are generally born around day 30. So you give them a nesting box a few days before so they can prepare. And this was just a big old surprise. And I don't even know if anything I just said made sense because this is all kind of still fresh in my head and I'm kind of processing it. But lesson learned, even if you don't think it happened, you should still give them a nesting box because it maybe actually did happen. I've had a lot of people who have reached out because I posted this on Facebook and they were like, you know what? It was a mom's first batch of babies. And so she didn't know what she was doing either. So you guys are kind of learning together. The thing is, even if you would have given her a nesting box, she still maybe would have had them outside the nesting box. So they still maybe would not have survived. But all of that to say, the silver lining in all of this is that now I know that the rabbit situation works because my husband and I were starting to wonder what is going on. Why can't we get these rabbits bred? Like maybe rabbits aren't for us, right? I was getting to that point going, I'm going to try a couple more times, but I don't know, maybe this just isn't our thing. But now I know that it does work and all the parts are working. You know what I'm saying? So I guess that is the silver lining in all of this. So there you go. That is my update from the rabbit barn. An unfortunate situation, but these things happen and we learn from our mistakes, right? All right. What else? I do not know if there will be a podcast episode next week. Obviously, next week is Christmas. So I'm not sure if I'll get one recorded. I might get one recorded. So if you don't see one, obviously that's why there isn't one, but I may surprise you. I might record one anyway. We'll just see what happens. We'll see what's going on here. And I think that's all I have from a little update here. So let's head over to this main topic where we're going to talk about information platforms and the whole cycle of what we do and how we move on to new things and how this just keeps continuing, even though we don't realize it is. So I want to start this episode off as saying, this is not me announcing that my podcast is coming to an end or anything like that. So don't freak out. It's just that I have noticed lately that many of the original podcasts that I listen to, and by original, I mean they got started early on in the whole podcasting thing. Some of the podcasts that I listened to back then are still around, but I feel like a lot of podcasts I listened to that started way after that, and not just homesteading podcasts, but like all over the topic spectrum. A lot of those podcasts are not around anymore. And so I started thinking about this and I started wondering, I wonder if that's like a thing from the host saying, you know what, we've decided podcasting just isn't for us. Or is it a thing from the listeners? And they're kind of saying, we went from wanting to listen to 3 billion different podcasts to really only wanting to listen to a select few podcasts. Or is it a little of both? Or is it the system's being totally overwhelmed and listeners are kind of like, over it and they're backing away? And is that a larger commentary on our information intake, like podcasting and otherwise? So I just had all these thoughts floating around in my head, as they do. And so I started posting some questions in various places and doing some research and digging into this. And I just thought that I would present some of these ponderings to you all today. Now, I started what is now known as A Farmish Kind of Life. I started that back in 2009, and it started as a blog about what I was doing. I was doing a lot of cooking and baking from scratch, and then I got some chickens and I wanted to move to a farm. And that's pretty much what I talked about every day on my blog. And I remember my dad being just flabbergasted that someone would want to sit online and read what was basically a journal of what I was doing every day or every other day or whatever, right? He was flabbergasted that someone would want to read that. And he didn't mean that as a put down to me or my life or my writing. It wasn't a commentary on that. It wasn't about me specifically. He just didn't understand why people would want to sit online and read about other people's very normal lives. Who does that? And I was thinking about that, and there was this period of time where people were what, you read blogs or you write blogs? Who is sitting online reading this stuff, right? But now that's totally normal to us. We're in this totally different phase of life where that's just normal to us. I mean, that's what we do on Facebook, right? We scroll and we read about people's lives, right? That didn't used to be normal. That wasn't something you would do. So I just thought that was an interesting little memory that I had about that when I first started my blog. So then this podcast started many years later. In 2018, I believe, is when it started. And I had been listening to podcasts. I've been listening to the Survival Podcast, which I think started in 2008, and just listening to different podcasts. And I thought, there's a new platform. I like to talk. I was in speech. I was in theater. I like to I like to do speaking. And so podcasting is a way that I can do that. And so that's how I hopped into that. And obviously along in there, I got involved in YouTube. I got involved in ebooks. I got involved in all these different things, right? So there's all these different kind of platforms, and they all have this sort of life cycle. They're these platforms that we use for creativity and business and community. And there is this cycle that happens, which is there's the rise in popularity, there is the saturation of that platform, and then there's the decline. And it's this pattern that follows in all of these different mediums. And it seems like the arc of how things happen is this, right? There's this platform that's new and exciting, whether it is blogging or ebooks or podcasting or YouTube or TikTok or whatever, and people start to mess around with it, right? And then enough people mess around with it and it gets really popular, and then it gets flooded with people. So many people, right? After that, it dies off. And then there's a new thing, right? That's kind of the pattern that happens. So let's talk a little bit about that. Okay. So first, a platform is kind of created, and then there's the rise, right? So we have the new platform, and it gives you this new way to share information. So we had blogs that came about big, in the 2000s. YouTube got really popular in the 2010s. Podcasting got super popular in 2020, obviously, because, we were all home with nothing to do. So that's when podcasting really, really took off. So lots of different things that come, into being, and then they're there, and then they become known. The reason that this happens is this new platform will emerge, and it's usually accompanied by easy to use tools and what we'll call low barriers to entry. So basically anyone can do it, and it's free, right? It doesn't cost you anything to publish an ebook on Amazon. It does not cost you anything to put a video on YouTube. It does not cost you anything to put a podcast out if you're using certain platforms, right? It doesn't cost you anything, and there's a million ways that you can learn how to do it, right? If you don't know how to do it, you can look it up and someone will teach you how to do it. It's easy. It's easy to use, and it's free, right? So the first people get in on this platform, whatever it is, and the first people there will very quickly build very loyal audiences because there's less competition and it's easy for you to be seen, right? Less competition equals high visibility. which means you can very quickly build a very loyal audience. And the creators that are putting stuff out there and the audiences that are drawn to it, they're there for the new experience. They are there for the innovation. Yay, it's new, it's sparkly, it's shiny, it's going to solve all the issues of the world. Podcasts kind of became like radio for everybody. Anybody can make a podcast. You can talk about whatever you want. You can find a topic on anything you want, like any topic you want to hear about, there's probably a podcast about it. If you want to find a YouTube video about something, there's probably a video out there. If you want to make a YouTube video about anything, go do it. So that's how things are offered out there, and it's exciting and it's awesome, and people are just itching to get on there and to get involved. The next thing that happens is we have like this flood of content. All right, so we get these new creators on there and they start talking about how successful they are on YouTube or blogging or with ebooks or building a business on Facebook or whatever. They start talking about how successful they've been, and their success stories inspire this new wave of creators, and they're pulling more people into it. And you can do it. Anybody can do it. You can make money. You can get popular. You can whatever. You can put your information out there. So that's one of the reasons that the popularity kind of explodes. The other reason is that the platforms themselves figure out how to do this whole monetization thing, right? So we have ads on YouTube, we get royalties from Kindle, we have ads on Facebook, there's all these different ways that you can make money with the thing you're doing. The platforms figure it out, the creators figure it out, it becomes about money. After that, we get this kind of oversaturation. When we have more creators on a platform, it is harder to stand out. If you are late to the game, whatever the platform is, if you are late to that game, you are not going to get the same results as someone who's been there for years. Someone who's really been working at it for years, you're not going to get the same results. I will never have the traction on YouTube as people who have been there for a long time, who've really been working at it. I'm never going to have that kind of traction. Conversely, I have some of the top spots for various recipes in a lot of different search engines. If you look up ham brine recipe, you're probably going to see the Farmish Kind of Life ham brine recipe as one of the top 3 spots. Generally, especially around Thanksgiving and Easter. And that's awesome. That's what you want. You want to be one of the first results. If you write an article today that is a ham brine recipe, you could probably write my article word for word. And you would not get the same spot because it's very hard to topple someone out of those spots. And I have those top spots because I wrote those articles like in 2017, and they've got some traffic and some clout behind them. That's just kind of how it works. It's really hard to topple people out of the top spots in their platform that they've built their original following. That it's very general. That's a general statement now. Don't y'all come after me. But that is what I have seen. I used to tell people, here's the thing about oversaturation. I used to tell people the ebook market is so saturated. It's so saturated. And there were people who would get mad at me when I would say that. Now, I wasn't telling people, don't publish a book. It's not worth publishing a book. I wasn't saying that at all. I was saying you publishing a book in 2024 is going to be completely different than someone who started publishing books in 2012. It is a completely different platform. It's a completely different ocean that you're dumping your stuff into. It's completely different. There are over 12 million Kindle books on Amazon now. 12 million. I read an article from some 2023 stats on Amazon Kindle publishing, and it said there are at least 1,670 new Kindle ebooks being published every day. That's almost 70 ebooks every hour. 70 new ebooks every hour. What? Now, this is just one person's estimation with some stats that they were following. It's very hard to get specific stats about what's going on at Amazon because Amazon is Amazon. But do you see what I'm saying? If you look up the stats about what was published in like 2011 for a Kindle ebook compared to what was done in like 2021, oh, it's incredible. Incredible. The platform is completely different now. There's more competition, there's more stuff on it, and this is what happens. It doesn't matter what the platform is. The other thing that happens with oversaturation is that the quality sometimes goes down. The quality is sometimes diluted because quantity increases. If 1 episode a week is great, then 3 would be even better, right? And 5 would be the absolute best. Let's put out all the content, even if it means that putting out a daily podcast or a daily YouTube video or a daily whatever. It means that I'm going to have to half-ass stuff because I don't really have the time and attention to spend on it like I would have if I was only doing 3 or 2 or 1 episode or video a week. Do you see what I'm saying? Pushing out more content because you want to stay relative and be seen, it backfires. It backfires. And here's the other thing. I know we talk a lot about the algorithm, and we can do a million episodes just on, what the algorithm is and how it messes with your stuff and if it's helpful. But platforms have to evolve to manage content overload. When there's not a ton of people posting or publishing or putting stuff out there, it's a lot different than when there's a lot of people putting a ton of content out every day. So algorithms are supposed to prioritize specific types of content, and in doing that, they make it harder for new creators to succeed in an organic way. Okay, so you will have a lot of people now who will say, you got to pay to play. Like if I want my stuff to be seen on XYZ platform, I got to pay money. I didn't have to do that back in the day, but now I do. I'm not saying me specifically, I'm just saying generally. If we talk about Facebook, I have, I think, 700 some friends on my personal profile, and then I follow like 700 and some pages on my farm page, right? So the newsfeed that shows up when I'm on my farm page, which should all be farm and homesteading stuff, but often isn't. That's another story completely. But okay, so let's say if I have 700 friends and 700 pages that I follow, okay? If every person or every page that I follow posts one thing a day, that is 1,400 posts to scroll through every single day, let alone interact with. Do you see what I'm saying? So the platforms have to do something to make it manageable. They have to do something so you're not absolutely just overwhelmed with all the content that's there. Now, that's not to say it's not totally messed up, the algorithm, but if you've got one person who posts 10 times a day and another person who posts 5 times a day and then one person who never posts, I don't think we realize the amount of content that would be passing in front of our face on Facebook or in the podcasting world or on YouTube or ebooks. Like if we saw everything that was actually being put on there that we've asked to see, we'd be absolutely just overwhelmed, flabbergasted. So then these platforms have to figure out how they're going to deal with that. The next step in the process is the platform starts to decline. Now, there's a few reasons for this. Number one would be burnout and frustration, and that would be both on the part of the creators and the audience. The creators will get frustrated because they're trying to get their stuff seen, and it can't get seen because there's so much competition out there. So they're struggling to maintain this visibility, and they're struggling to make it profitable for themselves to be there. And it's a struggle sometimes. You see what I'm saying? And so sometimes they start to look for other places to be. The audience can get burnt out and frustrated because they just get tired. They get tired of repetitive content, they get tired of low quality content, or they just get tired of the sheer volume of what is out there. Sometimes I will receive emails saying, thank you for only doing 1 podcast episode a week. Or, I really love to hear what you have to say, but please don't start publishing more than 1 a week because I can't keep up with anything more than that. And I think that's really valid, Like if your audience cannot keep up with what you are doing, that's not an audience problem. Do you know what I'm saying? Calm down. We can only take in so much information before our brain cannot brain anymore, right? And if I am pumping more information or more opinion or more words of wisdom at you, then you can, take in and process and sit with, like, that's not helpful. That's not helpful to you. That's not helpful to me. Back when live streaming was like a super huge thing, when everybody was going to do live streaming, like that was the new thing. That was the new platform that everybody was jumping on. Back in that time, I remember trying to figure out a day and time that would work for me to do a weekly live stream. And I was trying to figure out, like, how would it fit into my life here at the farm, but then how would it also fit that crossover audiences would still be able to watch me? So let's see. Jack from the Survival Podcast does his live streams at this time. And Nicole from LFTN does her live streams at this time. And Tim, Toolman Tim, he does his live streams at this time. And I had this whole list of times that were already taken, or that I'd be competing with another creator if I did a live stream at the same time. And after a while, what you've actually got is a bunch of creators putting out live streams to audiences where there's a ton of crossover, and the audiences are sitting on their duffs watching these live streams every single night or every single afternoon or every single morning or whatever. And I had some listeners of mine say, that's great that you're doing live streams, but I cannot sit and watch this stuff anymore, because after a while, it's not any different than sitting and watching TV. And I want something more productive. And yes, you can go and listen to those live streams as podcasts later while you're out doing all the things, right? But then you've got to fit those podcasts in, those live stream replays. You've got to fit those in with all the other podcasts you're already listening to, or all the other audiobooks you've been waiting to start, or, as I've often heard lately, I'm realizing now sometimes I just want quiet. I don't need to have something in my ears when I'm doing chores. I don't need to have something in my ears when I'm driving wherever. I don't always need something that I'm supposed to be taking in and processing, right? I used to listen to lots and lots and lots and lots of podcasts. Like, I subscribe to so many podcasts, right? Now I think I subscribe to maybe 5 podcasts, and I am behind on every single one of them. I think another reason that the platforms tend to decline is that the platforms will shift their focus a little bit. Platforms can start to prioritize profitability, and it's often at the cost of creators' success, right? They will change their ad revenue models. They will make it harder for your stuff to get seen if you're not going to boost your posts, or you're not going to, it becomes a very confusing thing. And they are prioritizing something that was different than what they did in the beginning. And then the creators can get frustrated, and the audience gets frustrated because the creators are frustrated, and blah, right? The next thing that'll happen is a competitor will emerge. A new platform will come out, and it will offer opportunities that feel fresh or exciting, or they will offer apparent solutions to issues that the old platforms have struggled with. And then the audiences and the creators start migrating to the new thing. Everybody kind of jumps ship. Then there's this move to the next big thing. And then the whole cycle restarts. The creators are excited because it's a new platform and they're getting better reach because there's nobody over there. There might be more monetization potential. There might be more freedom. The audiences are excited because, they wanted something new. They wanted something better. They wanted something more exciting. They wanted something less glitchy. They wanted something where they were free to do what they wanted, watch what they wanted, see what they wanted, whatever, right? TikTok started to pull creators from Instagram and YouTube because of the things that they were doing that people weren't seeing on Instagram and YouTube, whether that was the tools that were available to the creators or things the audiences were able to do. People started to jump ship from older platforms. And then, like I said, the cycle it restarts. The early adopters of the new platform get bigger. There's less competition, and then new opportunities emerge, and it's wonderful and it's great, and then it builds, and then it gets oversaturated, and then it declines. It's inevitable. So why does this cycle repeat, and why am I even bringing this up? Why? So why does the cycle repeat? Number one, I think it's human behavior. I think curiosity drives us towards new things. Like, we want new, we want something we haven't seen before, we want fresh, exciting glitter. We want that new thing and a new way to do it. I think creators and the audiences crave new ways to connect, and they crave new ways to consume.
I think platform economics is something that makes the cycle repeat. Platforms prioritize growth and profits over making it sustainable for creators. I think there's something to be said for cultural trends. I think the internet itself fosters fast-moving trends, and the reality is that our attention span shifts really quickly now, and the internet absolutely fosters that. And so I think that has something to do with why this cycle keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. I also think there's a sense of natural limitation, because I don't think any platform is ever going to be able to sustain infinite growth or kind of maintain relevance forever. You're not going to be relevant forever, right? My podcast, the Farmish Kind of Life podcast, is much different than it used to be, right? It used to be strictly homesteading. It was how to homestead. It was homesteading how-to stuff. And then it kind of shifted into some deeper thoughts about homesteading. And then we kind of shifted to lifesteading and how to live a decent life. And sometimes I get kind of spicy about life and issues and what's going on out there. Someone the other day said to me, I think your podcast is just about life and common sense, and you don't even need to be a homesteader to get anything out of it. Like it's not about homesteading anymore, which makes sense, because other than my random updates at the beginning of the episodes, I really don't talk much about actual homesteading anymore. I think if a new listener found my episode today and consistently starts my episodes at the main topic, they probably will have no idea that I live on a farm. It's just not the point of the podcast anymore. And I think that's okay. I think that is needing to morph and stay relevant. I don't know. I mean, we shift in our life, and it makes sense that the platforms and the things that we're doing on those platforms would shift as well. So why am I bringing this up? Sometimes I don't know why I'm talking about a certain topic, but I still talk about it because I feel like maybe there's someone who needs to hear it. And I don't know why, but I feel that with this topic. So I bring it up because someone needs to hear it. I bring it up because maybe there is someone out there who's trying to figure out what their next step is. If they should stay where they are, maybe they should morph a little bit where they are, maybe they should jump ship to something else. I bring this up for anyone who thinks that by consistently moving and doing the next thing, they're somehow going to find the something that sticks. I bring this up because the truth is, in the world of business, in the world of platforms, in the world of information, there is no, this is going to work forever. And so if something feels like it's not working anymore right now for you, maybe that's a sign that it's not. And maybe there's nothing wrong with that, because things cycle. But I also bring this up because maybe your audience or the people around you isn't an audience or people around you that want you to move ahead super fast and they want you to stay where you are. Maybe it's okay. Maybe all that insane shifting to the next thing isn't for you right now. Or maybe the point is that staying where you are is the different thing, and it is moving forward. That seems kind of counterintuitive, but sit with that for a minute. Maybe staying where you are is the different thing. You're being different by staying where you are and doing what you've done for a while. And maybe the deeper question is that sometimes we move forward and jump into things not knowing what's behind it, and we don't know why we're doing what we're doing, and maybe that's the problem. If you don't know the why of what you're doing right now, it's really hard to know if it's time to move on or stay put. And maybe now we're getting a little ethereal, and this isn't just about information systems and whether you should keep doing a podcast or whether you should stick more time into YouTube. Maybe this is a larger question about life. Overwhelm and dissatisfaction are the biggest reasons that people jump ship. And I can't help thinking that there's something bigger here in people being dissatisfied and being overwhelmed, and how it's so easy now to get overwhelmed because we live in a world that absolutely fosters overwhelm, and it's like we never learn. And then if we go even bigger picture, what lessons are we constantly being presented with that we continue to ignore? What cycles exist in our life that we are doing over and over and over and over again, and we fail to see them. I don't know about you, but year 45 of my life, there have been a lot of things that I have sat back and looked as things have happened throughout my life. And I've looked at that and I've seen patterns and I'm like, totally did not even realize this is a cycle that I am stuck in. This is where my brain goes, and then it goes here, and then it goes here, and this is what I do, and then this happens, and then this happens, and then the cycle continues. Life is crazy, y'all, and I think learning about it and how we exist here is even crazier. So those are my crazy thoughts for today. I hope you were able to pull something out of it. If you were, drop me a line so I know that I wasn't just absolutely off in left field with this one, which started about podcasting and what's all up with that and ended with cycles in life. I don't know. All right. So I hope you guys are doing well in the chaos that December brings. I hope you're finding some time to just chill and sit and hang out and enjoy life. I maybe will talk to you next week. If not, I will be back the week after. Thank you so much for hanging out with me again. I hope you got something useful out of this episode. I will talk to you again soon. Hope you enjoyed the show today. To continue the conversation, visit our website at afarmishkindoflife.com. Find A Farmish Kind of Life on social media or drop me an email at amy@afarmishkindoflife.com. Peace, love, and bacon, y'all. Stay farmish.